I'd like to take just a brief moment and talk a little bit about the Stock Track portfolio simulation game. So let's kind of get right to it. The basic objective is to give you some introductory knowledge of how to execute trades. Of course, this will be supplemented with the simulation activity, discussion in classes, research, presentations, weekly reports, right? So we will be utilizing this information. One of the things, though, that I want you to kind of understand is that, this is an experiment, right? The way you're going to be graded is a little bit different than some other courses. So, and I'll talk about that over here in the next couple of minutes. But I don't want you to be concerned about losing money, right? So we're going to simulate the trading of multiple asset classes, stocks, bonds, commodities, and more. You're going to be able to buy and sell securities and contracts throughout the trading day. There's a 20-minute time delay from real data. And you'll also be able to utilize some tools to analyze portfolio performance and to track your ranking. So you're going to be given $100,000 to manage. This isn't my money, it's not your money, right? So you don't have to worry about losing it all. The deal, though, is you can't have a passive portfolio. You must trade every week. You don't need to sell things, but you must alter the portfolio every single week. The analysis that you get can come from any source at your disposal, right? However, the rationale for your changes, they have to be provided and cited in the reports for that particular period. Again, you have access to any asset that's provided by Stock Track. I believe it's set to stock prices can't be less than, I want to say, $2. The instructor has also, there's some things that are added in there that reflect changes in liquidity, so that if you went out and you bought, let's say, for instance, a company had 1,000 shares, and you said, hey, I want to buy 900 shares. Well, that obviously would affect the value of the company. That amount of trading on a stock based on volume would have an impact on pricing. So there are some limits exactly how much you can actually purchase. And we'll talk about those a little bit in the video where we go over how to get into the game, etc. As far as transactions, again, we're going to discuss many types of transactions over the next couple of weeks. You can buy and sell stocks. You can buy on margin. You can short sell stocks. You can also buy and sell a variety of all kinds of other securities. How this ultimately graded is like this. There's 50 points as the very first paper. We'll talk about that when we actually get into the coursework. Every week, starting with week 2, every other week, you're going to write a weekly report. There's a picture of that here coming up in a second. They're going to do a presentation at the end of the term for 100 points, and your performance at the end is also worth 100 points. The papers then, again, they're required throughout the game. We've already talked about these. The first one's on your investment strategy. Then there's weekly reports. They're going to talk about the summary of transactions, performance, and observations. So let's look at those great game reports a little bit closer. Again, every 2 weeks, it's going to be submitted, right? A template is going to be shown. It's on the next page. Don't forget, your portfolio cannot be passive. You have to trade. And as we cover a different type of security, you have to include a trade of that security, right? Of course, you still have to meet this requirement by trading prior to the coverage of the material, right? You can trade anytime. But for instance, when we first start, we're going to be talking about stocks. Maybe that's all you want to buy. But when we go to fixed income securities, you need to purchase a fixed income security. We talk about mutual funds. You have to buy at least one mutual fund. So that's the process of how those how the trading actually works there. Here's your report. You'll put your name, what class, what section you're in, what week it is, right? So these are already labeled for you. This will say week 2. What was your value at the beginning? Well, since this is the first report, it was 0. What is the value at the end? It's down below here. And then what's the return? What you'll do is you'll list the companies, the ticker symbols, the date that you made the trades, right? And you'll also talk about the shares, how many shares you did, or what is the dollar amount. Now here's the critical part of this. I need to know, and Stock Tracker will require you to include what you, why you're doing this, right? What information did you learn that made you want to do this trade? So again, sometimes it will be very, very specific, right? In this case, there was an article in Business Week 12/15/14, right? That should create a positive price move based on the information in that article. Financial Times article. There was a new government contract was signed. That could be good for this company. So those are the reasons, right? Again, you can't say, well, I think it's a good stock. I think it's a good thing to invest. We have to know why you think it's a good thing. I mean, even if you don't have something to cite, right? To say, hey, I think, Nike's good. Lots of people wear tennis shoes. It's summertime. So, man, it just seems like a time where everybody's going to get more involved. Maybe that's going to drive demand up for the products. That's the type of information we need. The very last week, there'll be a presentation, right? So you'll provide a presentation. It's going to last 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to discuss, you'll start with the beginning strategy, your process, any ending thoughts. I'd like a little discussion on something that you did that worked very well and something that maybe didn't do so well. We'll have some form of rubric created. I'm working on this now. There'll be a rubric that will be used to assess this. And what we're going to do is we're going to have students assigned to view your presentation. Again, since maybe the class is live, maybe it's online, but what we'll have is there'll be 2 students who will review other people's presentations. So there'll be my evaluation, and then there'll be 2 students' evaluations, and we'll pull those together to give you an evaluation of your presentation. And finally, how is performance graded? Well, we're going to grade it based on 3 things. The realized profit and loss, and as long as Stock Track is providing this information, we'll do it this way. We'll rank students from highest to lowest profit, and then you will get a ranking for that. So if there are 5 students, the very first highest return realized profit gets a 1, down through 5. Then we're going to find out what is the Sharpe ratio. We'll talk about what that means later. But what is your placement with the Sharpe ratio? And we'll rank those 1 through 5. And then we'll do that with something called alpha. Again, that information comes later. So essentially you have 3 rankings. So if you were first, then third, and then fourth, right? It would be 1 plus 3 plus 4, right? That gives you 8. That is your total ranking for performance. And then we're going to rank the class by those totals. The very first person, the very first place, whoever's first, gets 100%. Second place gets a 95. Third place gets a 90. Everybody else, 4th place and below, gets an 85%. So no matter how bad you do in this game, it's 85% of 100, right? There's 250 points. 85% of that, of the one part, is the worst you will do. So you could have great presentation. You could still get an A on this performance, even if your portfolio was terrible. And in addition, I'm going to be playing the game the exact same time you are. And if you can beat me, you get a 5% bonus. So it is possible that somebody could get first place in the class and beat me. If I was third place, then the first place and second place would get 105% and 100% respectively, because their portfolios beat my portfolio. So that's the way the game goes. Sometimes StockTrack changes the way they give us information, so we do have to be a little flexible when we get to this performance grading piece, but it seems to work out pretty nice almost all the time. So look forward to playing the game with you, and I'll talk to you soon.